Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
What a beautiful and powerful introduction, Shana Sadiq, the next Member of Parliament for the Oldham East constituency. If you know people in Oldham, make sure he hasn't gone away, you know, Jack Straw. He's still here in Blackburn. His tentacles, demonic tentacles, still dangle here in the town, here in the Labour Party, and yes, here amongst the so-called independents. Let me tell you, when the next local elections come in Blackburn, there'll be a Workers' Party candidate in every ward in those local elections. We don't tolerate betrayal. We don't tolerate fork-tongued deceivers. We'll have an honest Workers' Party candidate in every ward in the local elections. He hasn't gone away, you know, Jack Straw. Jack Straw is the epitome of the British colonial rule that many of you from your grandmothers and grandfathers can remember. Divide and rule. Make sure that the power continues by dividing up all those who would stand against that power. Craig Murray's address, brief and yes, beautiful, shows you the kind of clarity of thinking, the kind of influence, not just in Britain, but across the world, that his writings were on the desk of the South African legal team when they put Israel on trial for genocide. You have the chance here in Blackburn to have him as your MP rather than the nobodies who currently represent you. I call them nobodies because I'm in the House of Commons and I have no idea who they are. If they walk through that door now, as God is my judge, I would not know who they are. They're do nothing, say nothing, worth nothing, occupiers of space, of seats in the House of Commons, making no difference whatsoever, either to the lives of the people in the town or the lives of people even worse off than the poorest person here in Blackburn. That's the truth of it. I'm not lying to you. I've been a Member of Parliament for 37 years. I've been sitting in this Parliament for the last 70 days, and I don't know who your MPs are. That's how effective their place in Parliament is. In a sane country, Craig Murray would be the Foreign Secretary of Britain. Craig Murray, an ambassador, he was too modest to blow his own trumpet. This man was an ambassador. The Honourable Craig Murray, His Excellency. Why was he sacked? By Jack Straw. Too modest to tell you that. He was sacked by Jack Straw. You know for what? And I'm going to quote directly from the dismissal letter signed by Jack Straw, that he over-focused on human rights.
Shame.
Whose human rights? Muslim human rights. Where? In Uzbekistan. He was over-focused on the fact that the dictatorship in Uzbekistan was murdering, torturing, disappearing, and jailing Muslims like many of the people in this room, like many of the people in this town. for standing up for them, Jack Straw sacked him. I have a long history myself with Jack Straw. If you want to read the debates in Parliament in the run-up to the Iraq War, many of them on YouTube, actually, you can watch them. Clash after clash after clash between me and Jack Straw, who was the mouthpiece of the Tony Blair government that caused the deaths of more than 1 million people in Iraq. And as I said here in this town quite recently, when all these independents were sitting right in front of me, cheering me and hailing the next member of Parliament for Blackburn, I told them this: the worst memory I have of Blackburn was the sight of Muslims carrying Jack Straw on their shoulder in victory in 2005. Some of those are still alive. Some of those are still involved in the politics of making sure that the power stays in power. They carried him on their shoulder, literally, out of the count. 2 years after, Jack Straw, soaked in blood, gloried in the invasion and occupation of Iraq, which would go on to kill 1 million people and counting. I used the word redeem. We have to redeem the reputation of the Muslim community in this town. If, on the other hand, at the height of another genocide, another bloodbath, we either directly, by voting Labour, or indirectly, by splitting the anti-Labour vote, we help Labour back into power to reward them for the genocide in Gaza, no redemption will be possible for anyone involved. I can see, I know, that not everyone here is a religious believer. I am. I believe there's a judgment day. And on that judgment day, I believe that we will be asked what we did during the genocide of the Palestinian women and children and men in 2024. We'll be asked, did we stand up against it? Did we curse it with our lips? Did we curse it in our hand? Did we put an X on a paper with that hand to stand up against it? And if we cannot answer that question positively, well, good luck to the person trying to enter heaven. This genocide, of which Craig speaks, is the worst thing we have ever seen. It's not the worst thing that's ever happened. There are many things. The partition of India, the war between between Pakistan and Bangladesh, the Vietnam War, the destruction of Cambodia, were all worse in quantum. The important word of what I just said was seen. This is the worst thing we've ever seen. And every one of us and our children have seen it. This marks, therefore, a key and vital difference in what's happening in Gaza now. Our children are asking us, what are you doing about what I am watching? I saw a picture yesterday of a dog with a baby in its mouth, a dead baby in its mouth. The dogs are feasting on the dead children under the rubble in Gaza. And our country is utterly complicit and co-responsible for these horrors, for this grotesque chamber of horrors that is the Gaza Strip today. For the reasons Craig mentioned and more. Because you see, he said with diplomatic precision that this has been happening for 76 years. But actually, it's been happening for 107 years. Since the day in the House of Commons when the British Prime Minister, on behalf of one people, promised to a second people the land that belonged to a third people. Britain wrote the Palestinian disaster, just like it wrote the Kashmir disaster. The British Empire is responsible for more than 100 years of desperate agony, worse than any crucifixion of millions of Palestinian people. And so when people ask me, why are you so occupied with this issue? In my case, for 50 years, I've been in this cause. I answer, first of all, because my country caused it. And if not me, who? If not us, who? Must work to expiate such a bloodbath caused by our own country. But the second reason is more human. Because I've been involved in it for 50 years, I probably know personally thousands of Palestinians. I certainly know hundreds who are now dead since October the 8th. Whole families that I know. Whole families, the whole bloodline. Grandfather, mother, children, all of them eliminated from this earth by this catastrophe that is underway and shows no sign of finishing. Even if the guns fall silent, which is a big if. Even if any ceasefire lasts for 6 weeks, which is an even bigger if, the whole thing will start again. Craig made a point there, of which I made a mental note. The question is not whether we should be selling weapons to Israel. I mean, in a way, that's such a ridiculous question. Who would answer in the affirmative outside of the ranks of the British Labour Party that we should? Who? Who in Britain would say, yes, I've seen the pictures, I've seen the video, keep on selling them weapons? No sane person I could say so. The question isn't even whether we should recognize a non-existent Palestinian state. The real question is the one that Craig posed. When people ask me, does Israel have a right to exist? I answer, did apartheid South Africa have a right to exist? Did fascist Italy have a right to exist? Nazi Germany a right to exist? Did the USSR have a right to exist? Did Czechoslovakia have a right to exist? States come and go. And they go when people no longer want them, when people will no longer tolerate them. That's when they go. And if you can tolerate a state like Israel, then there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. If you can tolerate a state which is built on the bones of the people whose land they stole, a people who desecrate the holy places of others on a daily basis. The people who, by law, segregate their population in a form of apartheid even more extreme than that which existed in apartheid South Africa. There's only one solution, and that solution is one state from the river to the sea, where everyone lives equal as a citizen, equal one with the other. That's the only way that we can resolve this question. I left my blood on the floor of the Guguletu police station in Cape Town during apartheid in South Africa. I was an undercover operative of the African National Council Congress, led by Nelson Mandela, who was in Pollsmoor Hospital just a mile away from the Guguletu police station. When Mandela was freed, by the hammer of the armed struggle of the South African people and the anvil of a worldwide international solidarity movement, and became president of the first free republic of South Africa, the whites, the Boers of the Orange Free State, asked Mandela, can we have just one little piece of the country? A white state within the Republic of South Africa. And Mandela answered, we don't believe in black states or white states. We believe in democratic states where black people and white people are equal, one with the other. If that's good enough for the ending of apartheid South Africa, it's good enough for the ending of apartheid Israel. That's where we stand as a partner. Now we are standing 326 candidates up and down this country. That's a magic number. It's not just a magic number because it represents the biggest number of candidates like us that have ever been fielded in a British general election. It's a magic number for one other reason. If our candidates are all elected, I will be the Prime Minister of Britain. I'm not Keir Starmer. And if I was the Prime Minister of this country, Craig Murray would be the Foreign Secretary, and he'd be your MP, and he'd be working out on your shoulder. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What?